All business owners have usually an endless list of problems that they need to solve. But critical thinking actually demands that the problems are arranged using what I call mutually exclusive but collectively exhaustive, a general phenomenon, or what I use rather, to organize and structure the problems in a way that they will know what they need to prioritize per time. Now, why is critical thinking important for business owners, for managers or leaders in business? Because critical thinking, first and foremost, helps to identify what is important. Secondly, it helps to streamline components of that problem into what I would call logical groupings. Now, those logical groupings are important for organizational design, prioritization, putting where people need to work, among other things. But lastly and more important, when you now layer analytical thinking, it helps in determining things like current state, future state, and the gap that needs to be closed in the process. Then you now begin to articulate a solution. But what typically happens is that when you ask business owners what's their problem, they just give you this endless list. But that endless list is what I call bottom-up, and it's a bottomless pit. The whole idea is, how do I understand what is important? Select one single problem and then go at it. I am working with JIRADE DIADEM logo, a client, to walk through her own business challenges and to describe using critical thinking what she needs to prioritize per time before we now take it further at the Critical Thinking Masterclass. So, what are you looking forward to in this session?
Deliverance.
Since you have been delivered in the other aspects, I'll use the secondary aspect, which is critical thinking, to deliver you from the challenges of your business. But anyway, go ahead on a serious note.
Because it can be so overwhelming. And to be very honest, if I had known that entrepreneurship is like this, I'm not sure I would venture into it.
The funny thing is, that's what everybody says.
I told myself I'm going to write a book titled "JIRADE the CEO," and I will share all my stories, the challenges. As in, it's a lot. So I'm really excited to be on this with you.
Yeah, and that's why, critical thinking helps to declutter your mind. And that's what we're trying to highlight.
Yes, but sometimes, like, four people will jump at you as, you need to fix me now. As you're trying to fix that, another will come up. As you're trying to do that, a staff member will say, I'm leaving. You're trying to, okay, how do I? It can be so overwhelming. Well, like you said the other time, that I need to be fixed, for my head needs to be cleared to put things in the right perspective. So it's a lot of relearning and learning, and I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, and I'm also looking forward to how we can walk through this process to solve your problem.
All right.
So, all right, Miss JIRADE DIADEM, pleasure to be with you now on set. Obviously, we know what we're trying to achieve, but as an introduction, it is important for me to set the context why this is important. So we've been working together for some time now, over a year, and it's time to pivot our conversations and change gears, considering where your business is. And you just recap what your business does, and also just share a bit of context in terms of, how you started, where you are, and then we'll now move to your challenges. So in a nutshell, what's your business? What do you do?
Okay. Thank you for having me. My name is JIRADE Bepo. I love to call myself JIRADE the Queen, JIRADE the Queen, JIRADE Abike, JIRADE Alayo. I have so many names that I give myself. So I'm the CEO and founder of JIRADE DIADEM Global Limited, the House of Crunches, where we produce the best plantain chips in the whole wide world.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
Glory to God.
I can attest to that.
The journey was not a planned one. Okay, we've been on it for the past 14 years now. But the truth is that I never planned to be Mojirade Onipekere. Ipekere is chips in Yoruba. And I think it was born out of need. The way my dad brought us up, we're not used to depending on people, so to say. So I rather manage my need and look for a way out. So I was staying with my sister, and I was a choir member. So sometimes I would need tea fare. And I didn't want to just go to ask, can you come and give me tea fare and all that. So I was thinking of doing something. So I started, actually I've been doing chips, chin-chin when I was in school as a student. And because of need, I was doing it bit by bit, the chin-chin at home, during holiday and all that. But after school, and I tried to gain employment in one of the hotels. I studied hotel and catering. And my plan was to work in one of the best hotels, whether within or outside Nigeria. And my attempt to get employment didn't work out. And at that period, my pastor was preaching, "What do you have in your hands?" So one thing led to the other. I just said, okay, let me just continue. Let me take what I was doing seriously, which was chin-chin at that time. I was selling plantain chips from another brand. I would collect in dozens. The woman would give me, I think she was giving me 800 for 10. So the 200 would be my gain. I'll take it to Riaza. My choir members were my customers. Wow. During VG, they would buy. And they loved it. I used to sell out. So I was happy that somebody else's chips. So I had it in mind to add chips to my own chin-chin. So at a point, the woman increased prices or something, and I was finding it a bit difficult to locate her. It was stressful to get to our shop, our factory. So I just said, okay, let me just try it out. That was 2011. I just said, okay, let me just try this thing out. So I was doing it that Saturday, and my sister's friend, which happens to be the manager of the brand I was selling for, was around. So he just said, oh, don't do it this way. Why not just try this out? Do it this way. And that was it. So I produced for some of my friends that were going on a mission trip. I'm in mission in my church, and mission and choir then, but now I'm fully in mission. So I produced for them, and there's this elderly friend in church. I call her Auntie Ida. She was my first customer apart from family and friends. So we're selling in jars then, 4 jars. I was producing small stove, small pots on the stove in my sister's kitchen. And one day, one of my brother-in-laws took it to office. And his colleagues liked it. There were 4 in that office, I can remember. The colleague liked it. Another brother-in-law, I have 2 brother-in-laws that took the chips to their offices. And that was how I got more customers. So one of them just said, why not come and be selling in our cup store? That instead of traveling all the way from mainland to the island to come and sell, just supply our cup store, then buy from there, then you have more customers. So I didn't take it seriously, because actually I didn't know business. I'd never planned to be an entrepreneur, as in I didn't. And when he said that, I didn't take it seriously, and I just got a call one day that, oh, I was giving your number by so, can you supply us? I was selling a jar for 500 then. So they wanted to get it 400 so that they would be selling. I said, no, that is only 450 I could go last. They said, no, that I will sell more. I said, no. We're arguing, we're going forth and back. The woman just got angry and left me. So later, I think 2 days later, she called back and said, if not that it is one of my guys at the top that gave me this number, I wouldn't have gotten back to you. So she got my contact again. She got in touch again, and that was how I started supplying this particular cup store of a big company on the island. And from 4 jars, we moved to 20, 30, 40, and I couldn't do it alone again. I had to get a staff member, a worker. From there, I moved out of my sister's kitchen to a family friend's place, a backyard. I tried to make it comfortable for production. Then from there, we moved to where we are at the moment.
Wow.
So it's been, there was no plan. I didn't just sit down to say, okay, I want to do plantain chips.
I see.
But the truth is that along the line, I still went back. Maybe I can mention company's name. I'm free a bit to mention it.
And it's part of it.
Okay. It was a hotel I had my IT after school.
It's fine.
So that was where I wanted to work. So, but I didn't get employment. So I after frying chips for some years, I went back again. I'm tired of, is it chips I'll be frying till I'm not tired of frying? No. I mean, I don't even like going out. Does that mean I just be in the kitchen frying chips? I know many people in the hotel. Because when I was doing my IT, I went around. Apart from where I was designated to, I went to other departments to just see, to learn. I mean, be in the kitchen after work, I would still learn recipe and all that. So I know so many people. I know the GM, the PA, So I went back to one of the people I knew that said, just tell me to, it's me now. As in, I know your system. I know how you run things. So you won't even spend so much on me before I get used to your system here. So she took me to the GM. They said, okay, that I should come for interview. I went with 3 other people. You won't believe they took them. They got employment and I didn't get.
Wow.
I was like, oh, it was painful. I cried. One of the ways I express my emotion when I'm displeased is crying. Then I'm tougher now. Business has made me tough. So I cried. It was painful. So I continued the chips. Along the line, I got another offer in another company. This time around, we were to go to the interior to educate illiterate women on healthy eating and all that. And it's something I love, and I just saw it as a means of evangelizing. I told my choir coder I'll be away for 6 weeks. I got some tracts. I'd made some preparation, ready to go on that 3 months. I think the last or second to the last assessment, that was how they said I was not qualified. That 1, I'm slim. We're 2 that got to the final stage. The other lady is on the big side and she looks mama-ish. That me, I was too thin. I was very slim. I'm fat now. Wow. That means that illiterate women will not really connect with me because of my stature, and I couldn't express myself in pidgin English. They gave 1 or 2 excuses and I was disqualified. Oh my God, that thing pained me because I'd made preparation. I was a choir. I was a head of a department in my choir. So I'd handed over. I've told someone to, I've made preparation. This very day, if I didn't get home before I started crying, I was already crying. Before I got to my sister's house, I was crying. I remember my sister held me that day, taking me around the sitting room. That's when she showed me that this is not what Pastor taught us. Pastor Kodu said, even in any situation, we must give thanks. So she was dragging me around. We're singing, like, very, you agree. We were just singing. I was singing after her crying, and she was taking me around the sitting room, the center table. And I gave thanks while even in tears. And I said, okay, let me take it seriously. And that was how I started getting more serious with the business. Have I answered your question?
Well, yes. So, I mean, this is important because I need you to relax, and I'm happy that you are sort of. It has helped you to just like an icebreaker, to just break the ice so that we can flow. But I like the story particularly because in a country of 200 million people, or over 200 million people, with over 100 million that are considered multidimensionally poor, I am inspired by your story, and I think it's part of what we need to be able to tell young people that what do you have in your hands and what can you do with it. So I think particularly that I think it's a very inspirational story. I think for me, the moral of that lesson for what you are saying is considering where you have come now as a business, listen to that history. You're serving, I met you through a very important client who is one of your customers and your champions. I have seen your pictures with very important people that you're taking pictures with. Your chips is eaten by a very high profile people. I've seen people traveling to the airport, bug you on Sunday, come to your shop, they want to buy your chips. I've seen the craze, I've seen the text messages. Everybody says your chips are unique. So I want to tell people why we feel your chips is actually one of the best in the world. And I would say it. And I want to put context, right? Yes, it may be promotional, but it's true. And if they argue and feel that we're just promoting the product, they should not take our word for it. they should actually order the chips. I know that what kind of gimmick is that? Well, call it a gimmick or not. If you're not buying, you're locked. But when you see the kind of high-profile people that are taking your picture, taking pictures with you, coming to your store to buy the chips or coming to your factory, I think it's very, humbling for you, I would say, if that's the way to put it. But the attention and care that you put into making the chips, someone I know that I respect said you make it with love, meaning that you are thinking about the customer. So I've seen user experience firsthand from a factory owner like you. And I'm not flattering you, but I felt it. When you're shouting on your workers and saying things like, and this is important because we're dealing with the ethics of business, but we're going to get into that strategy. We're talking culture now. Where I hear you screaming and sending products back, no, this is not good enough for the customer. Like, no, it's like this. You're carefully, meticulously ensuring, even the number of fries, the time the oil is changed. I know it became at a point a debate whether it is profitable for us to change at a certain number. And what people don't realize, and for those who are going to be watching this, is that you have to be careful with the plantain chips you eat. Because people have I heard some terrible things, and people fry plantain, like you told me, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Meaning they all just keep changing. They don't change the oil, they just keep topping the oil. That is, even me, I'm scared.
That's even one. Another is plastic. They fry with the plantain so that to make it crispy.
Wow, they put plastic?
Yes, they will melt it to make it crispy. Another is you can use carbide to ripen it, get it to ripen.
So this wasn't part of the script, but I think it's good to put out there for health and safety benefits, maybe so that people gravitate towards our own plantain chips. But we don't have any apologies because we know the effort and sacrifice and even losses we take to ensure hygienically prepared plant. And that's one of the things that drew me to you. You actually care about your customers. And I think that is remarkable. So you're not just out there for profit. Your story is also inspiring considering how you started the business and brought it to this point. So now we've been working for some time together and we've gotten to a point where we need to 5x your business. When I say 5x, I mean take it x5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times your revenues. Now profits, unfortunately, may not be able to 5x, but we'll have to get a great target net profit margin. And I think a good, decent net profit margin, an aggressive one, cannot be less than 25%. All right. Now, we're not going to get into that part because we're going to focus on keeping things operationally efficient to achieve that. But priority now is the top line has to be multiplied 2.5 times 2, which is 5. So all the arsenal that I have in critical thinking, analytical thinking, problem solving, and strategic thinking, all of that, I'm going to hopefully use to dimension what to prioritize and how to exactly get you to a point of 5x. So to start, which is typically how critical thinking would be required, will be used, I would like to first ask the most important questions. Where is your business now? Can you summarize so that people have context? Now, for the sake of this recording, we're not going to disclose the actual amount. But we're going to use a figure that is easy for us to play around with, and that will be 100 million. Now, 100 million is not your actual revenue. Full disclaimer. Notwithstanding, because we want to show how we move from 100 million naira in revenues annually to 500 million naira. And there are questions we're going to ask. Like, for instance, how long do we estimate it's going to take us? Now, I am setting a target of about 18 months. Why 18 months? Now, this is me just cutting through the chase to say, people can say they can do it in 6 months, 7 months. I understand all that. But the reason is that I also do understand the business, which we're going to talk about the challenges now. And I know the reorganization you need to do, even your own mindset, the time it will take you to adjust to that aggressive change, to be ready to now catapult into 500. But what we will do, or the best way I like to describe it, is just think about when you want to top, like you pull and you release. I'm giving an example. That process of pulling, the further you pull, the longer it will fly. So that extra maybe 3 to 6 months for pulling is what we need. But once we release, we are now going to get results within a very short possible time. So planning is important, I think, for a business owner, and also knowing what to prioritize. You know, there's a book I've been talking about called Slow Productivity by Cal Newport. There was a guy that wrote Deep Work, and I was even telling my colleague about it and all that. She used to read the book. And the reason is that it will look sometimes as if you're faffing around. But what you're actually looking for is that single solution. So you can be staying at the ceiling for the whole weekend. Maybe you have a deadline for Monday. But it's Sunday afternoon that things will now come together. You sit up, call this person, do this, do that, and boom, by Monday morning you have your results. And I've seen that thing work very well. So that said, let's quickly get a hang of where is the business now? Obviously, we say we're using a hypothetical figure of 100 million. But what are your current challenges?
Okay, thank you. Number one, we have many challenges.
No problem. And when you start talking, I'll go to the board, but
okay.
At some point.
Presently, we need a facility
Brilliant.
that can accommodate the kind of scaling that we are envisaging, as in where we really want to. A sophisticated facility that's industrial machine that can accommodate the level of the skill we're aspiring to get. That's one. And when I say a sophisticated facility, that is comfortable, that is conducive. Because like you said, I'm actually a people person, and I'm not trying to brag, but it's something my dad used to tell me, that I'm very caring, even right from
that's the strength.
Child.
That caring is the strength of the business.
But it's affecting me now. I think I need a balance. I need to learn the business sense, because I discover many times I bring my emotion to the table. I'm sentimental, and in fact, I just discovered I still did something recently.
So
and
problem two, you're sentimental, you're emotional in business. I'm writing that.
I just have passed that. But to my surprise, okay, I'm not where I used to be, but I still have some work to do in that respect, in that regard. Because all the while, I think I've not been able to separate myself from the business. I thought I've done that, but I'm still mixing my personality. Of course, my personality will translate to the business, but I can't run business with being sentiment. Be sentimental, I mean. So that caring part, I guess at a point I was overdoing it, and my staff members were taking it for granted. It's not making me get the kind of results I want.
Most business owners have this challenge, and we're going to talk about it, but go ahead.
I said someone recently, and the head of department, the HR said their staff members work Monday to Saturday, 7 to 7. And I'm like, wow. In my own case, if they work 5 days or 6 days, we are going and rest, take 2 days off. In fact, when I started and I had just 2 workers, even 1 or 2, they will leave because one was staying at Ikorodu, we're at Minde then. When it's anytime from 5, I say, come and be going, it's getting dark. Because you are still going far. I may be there till past 11.
Wow.
Yes,
but you
doing
release
the
them
work.
at 6.
I'll release. Wow. I was always very concerned, and at the point, they were not really appreciating it. They devalue it. They got used to it. So when I'm inside doing paperwork, sometimes they'll be feeling, look at her now, she's enjoying inside, and we are working outside. I had to be explaining. I found myself explaining, hey, I was attending to course. Because I didn't understand, I just stumbled into this business. There was nothing like planning. I didn't sit down to plan or do my due diligence.
And all that.
Nothing like that. It was just out of
accidental business.
So that really took a lot, as in that. That's one. We need a structure. We need a facility.
It's called PPE. Plant property equipment, but essentially facility, yes. But I've added 2. You are emotional. Number 2, you are emotional. That's number 2 on the list.
Well, I'll start dealing with that already.
So
okay,
it's not a challenge.
No,
it's not a challenge. No problem.
Maybe semi-challenge.
We are number 3. Okay, number 2.
Number 2, yes. Structure is what we have been trying to put in place. We have a SOP, we have but to initiate it, to integrate it has been a challenge. And I guess the problem starts from myself. Because I've done these things over the years, I'm used to it. And there are some aspects that I really enjoy, like the customer service. I love it. I love to call. Hello, have you received your chips? Hope is intact. So I didn't know how to detach myself from that. So even when I started employing more than 2, 3, 4 workers, I found myself still doing some things I've paid people to be doing. So it's depriving me from focusing on my real goal as a CEO. In fact, that one, I'm still struggling with it at the moment. As in sitting on that CEO seat and knowing my numbers, knowing the figures and all that is what I'm really working on, because I see a lot of lapses there. I'm naturally used to the practical, the operation. I want the chips to come out fine, you know. And many years I was doing that. It took a friend to lock me in my room. I'm being sincere here, because I work from my factory and home. We were still together and in the same place. I mean, she locked me in the room for like 2 weeks. She didn't allow me go to the workshop. I said, I want to go. I want to tell me. I'll go and tell them. Tell me, as in that's how attached I am to the business. Like a baby, that I'm carrying the baby. A baby that is not a teenager, because we are now 14. I'm still like, don't let him fall. No, I'm still very, you know. She did that when we were 10 years. She was like, this is 10 years that you've been doing this thing. You can't be doing, if you want to go, you want to scale, you are praying to God to scale and to enlarge your cost, and you are still doing, you can't be sliced. So I was involved in the operation over 10 years, you know. So that structure needs to be put in place. We need to follow what we've written down as our SOP. We need to help our staff members to get used to the culture. Because the truth is that we're not only after profit, like you mentioned earlier. And I feel even people working with us should benefit. Like I would like to tell them, you're not here just to come and slice chips or to come and produce chips. You are here for more, to learn. So open your eyes. Be sensitive. Don't just come and let me just collect my salary and go, because there is more. You know. So I love to, as we are producing, as we are planting chips factory. I love to still mentor, as in to make them get some things right, because some of them, some illiterate, some semi, some are literate. Now we have more literate, but when we first started, there were more. Maybe illiterate school starts, primary school, and all that. So even their English, I found myself correcting it, and that thing can take time. You know, pouring myself into them. Recently, I heard one of my old staff members, I written English. I was encouraged. I was like, wow, this is encouraging. But it wasn't an easy task. But at the point I got tired, I said, well, let them just come, do the work. I'll look away from any mistake or anything. But I couldn't sustain that. So I had to say, oh God, come and help me. How can I, as we are trying to make good products, at the same time, influence these people for good? Because when they leave, they should live with some principles that will benefit them, even out there.
This is not scripted. This is people's lives and businesses we're talking about. Okay, so give me a summary of all your business problems.
Okay, we need a facility.
One.
As in a big facility, well equipped. It's industrial machine and equipment. Then we need structure, a proper structure and branding. I want to separate myself from the business. Then, what else? I have them on my list. Want to make more profits, want to increase our revenue, 5x, 5 times. I think that's 5.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a decent list. Okay, now let's use critical thinking to organize everything you've said, all right? And this is typically how most business owners communicate with me. When they come, they make an endless list of their problems. Some of it with sub-points, sub-problems, with, you know, when a problem has multiple children. And there is no organized or structured way of articulating the problem. Most times what you have given me is what I call bottom-up. A bottom-up scenario is when you just make a list without any structure and any logic attached to it. I mean, you get what I mean? So the first thing is what I call problem definition, and that's the process. Problem definition is we need to be very clear, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound, knowing exactly what we're trying to solve for. Now, from everything you have said, I will respectfully say that you only have one problem statement: revenue growth. Why? Because the business is supposed to return value to shareholders, right? And that is what people need to understand. So if you're to return value to shareholders while also meeting other objectives, 5x is what I would take out as our top central goal, what I would call the highest level of abstraction on this matter. Okay? So 5x, all the other things are there to design and support. So one of the rules in critical thinking is being very clear what the problem statement is or the value to be created. So for me, my problem definition is how do we 5x your business? Full stop. To answer that question, the second thing, which is now the second thing, is the structure of the solution we're going to propose. In critical thinking, we always teach that structure should come before data. Let me repeat myself. Structure should come before data. And I know all the data analysts are going to go all in, boom, like what's going on, who is this guy, heresy. Obviously, I wish them well. They can go on YouTube, Google, and they will see billions of content, data, information that is overwhelming. But if you don't go into onto those platforms with structure to know what exactly you're going to look for to either clarify or justify or confirm or disprove your hypothesis. So you go in with a hypothesis that I want to make, in this case, a problem statement, not hypothesis. I want to make 5x, or how do I make 5x? So structure of the solution. Structure of the solution means how is my business organized? And what are the components that I need to think about, or what are all the aspects that will deliver this my 5x? Now, there is generally a long list that we have captured, and I will give you some: facility, production, people, processes, distribution, sales, funding, IT, equipment, branding, media, customer service. And honestly, the list can continue. You can wake up tomorrow and come and see another thing. And that's why some employees are frustrated, because their bosses keep throwing stuff at them, and they can't really, madam, you said, or guy, you said this today, tomorrow you said, What business owners have to be able to do is say, listen, we have one priority. Give them that priority. And anything else we're doing, which typically, in my opinion, should be 1, 3, 5, or 7. I like those numbers. In your case, I'm not going to use 3. For my own business, I use 3, which I cannot disclose now because of time. But in your case, I think I've identified 5 things from these 11 things and to be continued that we need to prioritize.
I think we need to add offices, proper offices.
Okay, brilliant. So that's under facility.
Yes.
So thinking about the structure of the solution, I would organize the components of what we need to get done for your own business, because it varies by business. And that's why critical thinking is important, because perspectives change or context changes. Is number 1, people. I'm very biased in that, and that was going to be number 1. Do you have the right team? Number 2 is what I call your go-to market plan. And in your go-to market plan, typically the traditional thing is we'll deal with your product for its utility and its value proposition to the market, the problem it's solving, the packaging, and all the things attached to the product. The next logical thing, they talk about is the pricing. For me, I would talk in the pricing under your financial planning, which is a different part that I'll come to. But generally, you need to price it well. But before you price, pricing is a function of quantity times sometimes price, but factoring in costs, subtractions, bulk, and all the dynamics of market requirements, and all of that. The next thing is promotion, which is what you were highlighting, whether it's branding or branding is separate. Promotion is at the tail end of it, but at least branding is the strategy, then the marketing, and so on and so forth, with promotions and all the other things that come as sub points of marketing. Distribution is a big deal, and distribution in your case, I think, is one of the things I'm going to even prioritize, because don't forget, we're going global. We're going to live up to our names and our expectations. So when I say distribution, I'm thinking how you're going to sell across the world and earn Forex with all your customers across the world, because you have a lot of customers in UK, US, and Canada. Brilliant. You even completed a statement. So that's your go-to market. It's an area we have to focus on. The next thing, which is the third thing, is your production. Production is a big deal. I want to single it out. we need to make sure that because we're going to 5x your business, you're currently at, let's say 1, you want to go to 5. There's a production capacity you have to expand. There's certain equipment you have to now introduce, or units of those equipment. There is a reorganization of your production process that will need to happen. So if you notice, I've started giving sub-points under each component using critical thinking for production. All right? So the idea is that because you're following the structure, even within production, like I said, production has the actual equipment, it has processes, it has people, the kind of training they receive, the production line, how you choose to be organized, and the exposure you would bring in conceptualizing how your own line should look, just like those massive factories that they used to make cars and other things. After production is your back office. Your back office is important, and I single that out from this list because your back office, of course, your IT, your accounting, your HR, and all the things that the engine that facilitates and manages the other core productive parts of your business. That back office needs to be strong and solid, of course, headed by a great person that you've hired at the, considering your people's strategy. Then the last but not least, which I singled out, because you're going to be talking 5x, you need to have a very good grasp of your financials. Financials, first of all, not just on the projection side, but financials into the unit economics of what it actually takes to produce 1 gram of your plantain, plus the additional costs, packaging, distribution, and all the other margins you need to distribute to who will distribute for you, among other reasons, to get to a clear point. And then the strategy that you can now borrow from, or the decisions you have to make when you now begin to explore partnerships and potentially all kinds of sales and marketing is, incentivizations or incentives you want to put in the market. So taking your 11 long list of things, I have compressed it to 5: people, go-to-market plan, production, back office, and finance. This mutually exclusive, collective exhaustive, in my own case, that ties to your objective of 5x. So now we're going to proceed to break down those items into their actual components to determine how you can 5x, which is what any business would require to succeed. This is what I call the length and breadth, right, of the challenges that you have identified. But before I continue, what do you think?
This is so profound. I guess I've been focusing on the operation for so long. I've not been so strategic. No, I've not been strategic. I've always been all about, cheap, so it has to come out, which is good.
Yes.
It is very important to keep the standard.
Yeah.
But I guess I've stayed too long on that. I need to be more strategic and think strategically to get more results.
Fantastic. And I think for me, the first strategic thinking component, or I say the key thing we did there, was to define your central goal, 5x. To say, let's declutter over your long list. For me, I just want to see one thing, 5x. Then all the other things are now supporting that point. So the ability to actually define what success is very quickly and communicate to the team that, listen, anything you do, whether you're opening the gate, you're frying chips, you're telling the customers, 5x is in front of us. Then all the other things can draw their relevance from that point. Now, what we've done is just arranging your list, critical thinking. There are still elements of analytical thinking. So for instance, when we say people, there are analytical things, there are quantitative and qualitative things that we have to consider that affect your people. When I go to market or production has production target, production has processes. That's analytical thinking. Measure variations or variables that depict quantity and quality that we would still need to delve deep into. So you already have a front row seat at the critical thinking masterclass that we're doing, and your business would continue the conversation there. And I would like you, when you come, we'll use your business as case study. I mean, this is our gift to you for just even being a part of this, even though we know we've enjoyed your chips for a long time. And I think other business leaders, business managers, come and see how critical thinking plays a vital role. I'm sitting in boardrooms and we're having debates and I'm trying to explain to the team that the problem is that the structure of the conversation is wrong. There is no logic to what we're even pursuing. And that is not making us look as if we're both babbling at each other, because critical thinking is absent. And if people maybe did not have the privilege, and I use the word privilege carefully and respectfully, with all sense of humility, have a consulting background, that ability to think clearly, or engineering, a secondary option, that ability to think methodically and logically will be very difficult. So critical thinking is the way out for anyone who started a career in a very probably narrow path or a very functional, specific, specialized area, which is fine. And they were not taught length and breadth on and logic and defining components and so on and so forth, problem definition, issue tree analysis, hypothesis tree, and all the multi-layer or multiple aspects of critical thinking, analytical thinking, and problem solving. Then I think let them come for the training. So this is exactly what critical thinking does for business leaders. It helps them to understand the problem, diagnose components of the problem, define or craft the solution, and then determine what to prioritize within those solutions that have been articulated per time so that they can get results. So critical thinking is not an abstract thing. It actually helps in decision making.